Bill Belichick is arguably the greatest head coach in the history of the NFL. His 300 wins ranks him third all-time, just 28 away from Don Shula for the #1 spot. He's won the most conference championship games ever with 9 and the most Super Bowls ever with 6. He's widely regarded to have one of the greatest football minds in history, while having a higher football IQ than almost every head coach or player to have ever lived. Despite all of these things, the future Hall of Famer has been getting tons of backlash from Patriots fans this season. Through 13 weeks, the Pats have one of the worst records in the NFL at 2-10, while on pace to finish with a top 3 pick in the 2024 draft. This monstrosity of a season has the fan base believing Belichick's best days as a coach and GM are behind him, with some even calling for him to retire from football altogether. The 2023 season certainly didn't play out the way Patriots fans expected it to, but they do have a valid point. These past few years of mediocrity in New England could have been avoided had Belichick not made a series of super dumb decisions. In this video, we're going to summarize the Patriots dynasty, then break down the last 4 years without Tom Brady, then get into what Belichick could have done better to avoid this embarrassment in 2023. Before I get into it, welcome to the War Room. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. I'm trying to hit 40K before the new year, but let's get straight to it. Back in 2001, football fans got introduced to a duo in New England that would absolutely dominate the NFL for the next 2 decades. A 24-year-old Tom Brady in his first full season and a 49-year-old Bill Belichick in his second year with the team were an absolute match made in heaven. They won the Super Bowl together that year, the first in the franchise's history, then again in 2003, another in 2004, once again in 2014, number 5 in 2016, and number 6 in 2018. From 2001 to 2019, the New England Patriots had a record of 232 wins to only 72 losses, easily the best record during that span, with the next closest team having a winning percentage 115 points lower than the Pats. This 2-decade run might not ever be replicated again in any sport. It elevated Brady and Belichick into the GOAT tier as a player and coach, but during this time period of sheer dominance, a question arose. Who is more responsible for this winning? Was the underdog 6th-round pick Tom Brady great because of Belichick's mastermind system, or was TB12 so hardworking and hungry that his excellence made everyone around him look better, including his own head coach? Fans debated this for years, and finally in 2020, we got some sort of answer. After 2 decades as a Patriot, the 42-year-old Brady announced he was signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's basically the quick recap of Bill and Tom's years together. But how did Belichick's team do without Brady under center? Well, once Tom decided to head to Tampa, it almost immediately had a negative impact on his former team. New England decided to roll with a 31-year-old Cam Newton at quarterback for the 2020 season. Although Cam was nearing the end of his career, it was pretty clear that he was just a rental until the organization was in a better position to get their next franchise guy. Newton didn't play great that season as a passer, throwing 8 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, though he did rush for 12 touchdowns. He led his squad to a 7-9 record. This was the Patriots' first time in 20 years where they finished below 500 and had a negative point differential on the season. Meanwhile, Brady led the Buccaneers to their first Super Bowl win in franchise history that same season. So I think the question of who was mostly responsible for the Patriots' greatness was answered in 2020. In the first round of the 2021 draft, New England selected Alabama quarterback Mac Jones, with hope that he would be the guy to lead them to success in this new era of Patriots football. Under offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, Mac Jones showed great potential in his rookie season. He started all 17 games, throwing for 3,800 yards with 22 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. While their defense was absolutely loaded that season, allowing just under 18 points per game, Mac's offense wasn't far behind, as the team ranked 6th in points per game in the NFL. Just like that, the Patriots were back in the playoffs with a 10-7 record, where they'd eventually get blown out by the Bills. But still, considering the year before they didn't even know who their quarterback was going to be in 2021, Mac Jones' success as a rookie, where he finished 2nd in Rookie of the Year voting and made the Pro Bowl, plus the team's regular season performance, restored hope within the fan base. But it was following this season where everything started to go wrong. After the playoff elimination, Josh McDaniels, who was the Patriots' offensive coordinator for the last 13 years, decided to take the head coaching job of the Las Vegas Raiders. This might be the biggest lose-lose decision in recent NFL history, because while McDaniels failed miserably in Vegas and got fired earlier this season, it also stunted Mac Jones' development in New England. So who did Belichick decide to hire to replace him? Matt Patricia. Patricia was on the Patriots coaching staff from 2012 to 2017, where he won multiple Super Bowls with the franchise. He understood the Patriot way better than most people, so hiring him as the next OC makes a ton of sense, right? Well, the problem was, those 6 years Patricia was on the coaching staff, he was the team's defensive coordinator, and while he briefly became the head coach of the Lions before getting fired in 2020, He was never solely responsible for calling plays on offense in his career. Reports say that Patricia didn't even want the offensive coordinator job, and he only did it because he was Belichick's friend and Bill needed someone he could trust. This proved to be a massive mistake. On top of that, they also hired Joe Judge to be the quarterback's coach and offensive assistant, despite the Giants having the worst offense in the NFL during the 2 years Judge was their head coach. These hirings caused Mac Jones to regress heavily in his second season. He played in 3 less games, but threw for 800 fewer yards and 8 fewer touchdowns from the year before. The offense overall was around league average in points per game. In the midst of Mac's struggles, Pats fans started chanting for backup Bailey Zappi to come into the game, in which Belichick listened, benching his sophomore quarterback. They finished that season with an 8-9 record, missing the playoffs, and all of a sudden, this team that looked like they had a bright future ahead of them just looked really mediocre. Matt Patricia left the Patriots after the 2022 season, taking a job as a defensive assistant with the Philadelphia Eagles, and despite multiple reports last season stating that Mac Jones did not like Joe Judge at all, he still remains a member of the offensive coaching staff in 2023. And that brings us to today, where I mentioned earlier, the team absolutely blows. 2 years after being 6th in the league in scoring, the Pats offense now ranks 31st at just 13.5 points per game. Mac Jones has been abysmal, with more interceptions thrown than touchdowns in 11 games. Throughout the season, he's been benched 4 different times for Bailey Zappi, and his future in New England now remains in question since Zappi was announced as the team's starting quarterback for Week 13. Just 2 years after Jones was a top rookie in the NFL, nobody knows when we'll see him play again, while the Patriots are on pace for their worst record since 1992. Most, if not all of this, falls on Bill Belichick, and now it's time for me to actually explain why that's the case. Reason number 1, he had no real plan once Brady left. For years leading up to Brady's departure, it became very obvious he was near the end of his career in New England, whether that meant going to another team or retiring. But once he left, the only other QB on the roster was Jarrett Stidham. You'd think Belichick would have a better plan in place since it was really just a matter of time before Brady was gone. This ties into number 2, the Cam Newton signing. Now, some of you might disagree with this, but I think here, Belichick made the mistake that tons of teams do following many years of winning. Instead of realizing when it's time to rebuild, they make these weird in-between moves that keep the team good enough to not have a high draft pick, but bad enough to where they miss the playoffs, and that's exactly what happened. I have a hard time believing Belichick actually thought Cam Newton at age 31 was going to lead the team to anything special. This resulted in the Patriots getting an average pick in the 2021 draft where they took Mac Jones, though outside of quarterback, the top 12 specifically in this draft featured many other talented options. I get the QB class that year was pretty bad outside of Trevor Lawrence, which is why the Newton signing really didn't hurt them that much. It's not like they missed out on the greatness of Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields, but I still feel like Belichick could have played his cards better, and it was just dumb luck they managed to walk out of this draft with someone as decent as Mac Jones. Numbers 3 and 4, Mac Jones's development and the Patricia Judge hirings. I covered it earlier in the video, and I'm sorry, but hiring Matt Patricia to be an offensive coordinator when he was only ever known for defense was just a bonehead move by Belichick, especially since literally the only reason he gave Patricia the job was because he was friends with him. When you have Mac Jones, who at that point proved that he could potentially be the next franchise quarterback, it might make sense to put some thought into who's calling the plays for him. Now, I personally never thought Mac Jones was going to be this superstar perennial Pro Bowler even after his good rookie season, but hiring Patricia and Joe Judge for development almost gave him no chance. Hindsight is of course 2020, but I mean, come on. Looking at Joe Judge's offense in New York, what did Belichick see that made him say, yeah, I want this guy in charge of my 24-year-old QB. And my final reason is bad drafting. I decided to put this last because there's some specific picks that I wanted to mention that Belichick made. In the first round of the 2018 draft, he took guard Isaiah Wynn 23rd overall, while DJ Moore got drafted 24th and Calvin Ridley got taken 26th. At the end of that round, he decided to add a running back in the form of Sony Michel, while 3 picks later, the Cleveland Browns took 4-time Pro Bowl running back Nick Chubb. In 2019, with the last pick of the first round, he selected wide receiver N'Keal Harry, while in the second round, Deebo Samuel went to the Niners, AJ Brown went to the Titans, and DK Metcalf got taken by the Seahawks. In 2022, he picked guard Cole Strange and wide receiver Tyquan Thornton over George Pickens, Jalen Petrie, Kenneth Walker, and Breece Hall. Bill Belichick's decisions as a coach and general manager these past few years has really made NFL fans view him differently. What was once this brilliant mastermind that could do no wrong has become a man getting out-coached while making wrong decisions left and right. When it's all said and done, Bill Belichick will be remembered as one of the greatest coaches ever, but it might be wise for him to start thinking about retirement so his incredible legacy isn't tarnished any further. Who do you think is to blame for the Patriots' struggles? Let me know in the comments comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Like I said, I'm trying to hit 40K before 2024, so please consider helping me out if you enjoy the content. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.